Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and we have another instalment of the HIMI horoscopes. As I'm sure you're aware, I am actually catching up on these due to a certain inky month and a few other things going on in life. So today we are celebrating Scorpio. Now I must admit this is quite a tricky dragon to sort of conceptualise, we'll say. I wanted it to look quite... I know scorpions aren't insects, but I wanted it to look insectal, if that's a word, but without it looking too much like a scorpion, because these are dragons and not their counterparts. So obviously the stinger in the tail is there, as all scorpions have. However, I wanted to incorporate that stinger shape into a few other features of the dragon, like on the wingtips and the whiskers and the traily bits that come off the dragon's head. That's the only way I can think to describe it. I also tried to create a similar shape with the dragon's claws as well, just to keep a running theme there. Now let's talk about the colour scheme. So Scorpio is a water sign, so I thought cool blues and purples would be quite a nice colour theme to go with this. I created a swirling wave kind of textured pattern in the background, which I later go on to add additional details to. As for Scorpio itself, again I was kind of struggling for ideas. I didn't want anything that was ridiculously red, because I always seem to think of red with scorpions. And the reason being I didn't want it too red was because I didn't really want to get lobster vibes. I know that's a really bizarre reason. So I went for this sort of reddish brown colour, and I thought that was a really good choice to go with. It kind of reminded me of the colour of a lot of insects and similar species, their exoskeletons, and I'm kind of glad with it actually. I thought it was quite a nice fit. Also, it massively helped that in the HIMI gouache set there was this particular reddish brown colour that I wanted to use. Now, it's not that I didn't want to mix a colour up for this, I just find it quite hard to gauge just how much colour I need, and I think that's a pretty typical artist problem really. On one hand, I want it to mix a lot, but on the other hand, I don't want it to be wasteful either, and let's bring an extra hand into this, what if you don't mix enough? So if I've got the right colour there and then, and it's going to be on a larger area, I'd rather just use one that I've already got. Just to add a subtle bit of depth to start off with, I used the deep burgundy red as well for the shadows, because I just noticed it was slightly darker tonally. And then I made a disaster by adding really white highlights. I thought I wanted this dragon to be super shiny, but paired with the white froth of the water in the background and the bubbles that I later add, it looked really bizarre. However, I persevered for a little while and just carried on with the other features while I thought about how to amend this. I decided to extend that burgundy red onto the skeletal frame of the dragon's wings, and off camera I added the flecked stars in the background, which I really went to town with actually, and I'm really glad. I quite like how super galaxy this one turned out. I'm really glad that I added the red on the wings as well, because that just makes it stand out a little bit more from the body rather than carrying on that brown. As scorpions have a hard shell, they're obviously going to be very shiny and not scaly like the other dragons that I've drawn. So in the absence of texture, I decided to add lots of bubbles in the darker portion of the water that I had in the background there. Some of them are simple white outlines, some of them are just little specks, and some of the others as well are large filled in circles with a few details added. I quite like the addition of this, it really adds a bit of movement to it. I'm quite under the impression that Scorpios are a feisty star sign, so I thought I would add that, and that would be represented by all of the textures I added in the water. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video this was quite a hard one to sort of conceptualise and come up with, and it was actually quite a hard one to paint as well. I think because I had an unusual colour combination along with this very bizarre looking dragon with a scorpion's tail and insect wings. But since it's in the realm of dragons, we'll say they're like fairy wings, which are based on insects. However, it was still looking a bit of an oddball mishmash at this stage, and I was thinking, no, this really has got some good potential to it, and I am just going to keep persevering. And once I softened those white shiny areas, which I was seriously thinking was ruining it, I did start to feel a lot better about the piece. I did have to do a lot of reworking and working on this one, but eventually I come to really like this one. I thought with the colour tones being quite similar, I would add a white outline just to make sure it stood out from the background, because it was looking a little bit flat. But as soon as I added that white outline to it, it just looked really, really good, and it popped out a lot more too. Well, I can't believe there are only 2 more dragons to do out of this series after this. I know I've asked before, but let me know again what you think of these HIMI dragons, and I will be doing some more of these in the new year. Obviously they won't be based on the zodiac, and I will be coming up with some other ideas for them. Has there been a favourite one so far? And if you haven't watched any of them, I do recommend you check out the Dragons playlist, just so you can have a bit of a recap. Anyway, let's get back to the art, shall we? So for the inside of the wings, I actually added the white to the brown, well, the reddy brown, which gave off this lovely, very pale coral pink. Just by using different tonal variations, I could use them inside the wings as well as on the belly of the dragon, and I think this is where it really, really started to come together for me. I felt that I'd left a lot of areas white up until this point, which is always an alarming portion of a painting for me, I guess. However, once that first layer was down, I felt a lot happier about things, and I could start confidently adding in those additional details. Now, something I did on here that I haven't really used on any of the other dragons is I used the black paint. Again, I really wanted the form of this dragon to stand out and for it to look like a solid dragon, I guess. And I do tend to find black can be quite a harsh colour to use, however, it just seemed right to add that there. Paired up with the contrast of the white outline, this dragon started to pop. Even though the colour tones were quite similar for the background as well as the foreground, it still popped. There was enough going on here to make it pop. So this one did take me a little bit longer than usual. There was definitely a lot of working and reworking, but I am really happy with how this one turned out, and I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed watching this, and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It really is helping my channel to grow, and if you're new here, I really do recommend you catch up on all of the other HIMI dragons that I've done so far. With that being said, if you have enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you lovely lot on the next video. Bye!